Paul Soldner is our patron artist for this week. He is a California artist known for making raku pieces like this. He brought the Japanese art of raku to America and is one of the fathers of American raku. He also was the designer and maker of the clay mixer that we have in-house. We are ready to go. We are ready to mix up our Arrowhead house clay. We have our Soldner Studio mixer. Inside, you're going to see that tub, that tan tub on the inside. That's where all of the dry mix and the water go together. And then those 45-degree angle bars, as the tub turns, is going to mix all of that together as it hits those bars on the inside. It's going to create a lot of dust, and that's why we have this dust extractor in the room. This one is flexible, so you can put it anywhere where you need it to be, where it's going to get that dust right at the point of where that dust is being made. Whether we're mixing for glazes, we're mixing clay, whatever it might be, works really, really good at the point where that dust is being created, along with the ventilation, the regular ventilation that might be in the room, so it keeps us nice and safe. Now, the other thing I have is that N95 mask on there. That's going to help me out as well. Just a double safety, making sure that I don't breathe any of this in. It's not good to breathe any of these fine particles in that these clays have. It is very bad for your lungs, and that's why we have as much safety precaution as possible. So we put the water in. Now we're ready to go and add our dry ingredients. The very first one is going to be our Hawthorne Fire Bond clay. Now, fire clay is interesting. It is a large particle refractory clay. Now, refractory clay means that that clay is not going to absorb heat. And when it absorbs heat, of course, it melts. And so being a refractory clay causes the clay to melt at a higher temperature. And that's why this is what's considered a cone 10 high fire clay, is because of that. Now, bond part of it, that Hawthorne bond part, means that there's additions to the clay. There's parts to the clay that actually help to bond the structure of the clay together even without firing. And so you'll find that when this clay is dry, it will feel nice and firm, and it will feel not flexible and very hard even before it's fired at all. And that's that bonding portion of the clay as well. So we get 2 bags of this fire clay, and again, this is working at a high temperature. It's resisting the heat. There's 2 bags of it, so that means that this is the main core. It's the main ingredient, and that everything else works around. Okay, everything else is going to kind of support this fire clay in doing its job in making a great stable clay for everything that we make. So the second thing that goes in helps that fire clay to become stable. It is a lower melting clay called Cedar Heights clay. Now, the other one was mined in Missouri. This clay is mined in Ohio. And so different places around the world for all of these things. The Gold Art clay is a lower temperature clay in its firing, and that is going to even out. It's going to balance out that clay melting temperature. So we can't have just high fire clay. It would be way, way too high. So this evens it out in that mid-range temperature. That's what the Gold Art is going to do. Now, the OM4 clay is your flexible ball clay. This is like little ball bearings. These are, if you put this in water and actually feel it, it's so slippery inside. This is the finest particles of clay that you can put in there. When it mixes in with all the other clay, it gives that clay the plasticity that you're looking for. Now, feldspar. Custer feldspar is no longer available. It's a mine in South Dakota that has been mined out, and it had been a mine since before the 1800s. Unbelievable. And we have 5 bags of it left in our studio, and then we'll have to find a replacement for it. But right now we have the Custer feldspar, which basically has things in it that is fluxes that allow everything else to melt. Now, one of those things that we want to have melt along with the clay is we want to have a binder in our clay, and that's where the silica sand comes in. Silica sand by itself would melt at over 3,000 degrees, but because of that Custer feldspar and because of the clay having melting properties to it and fluxing properties to it, it helps that silica sand to melt. Silica sand, basically beach sand. So if you've been on a beach before, you're walking on an ingredient for our clay in the studio. Now, Malcoa grog, this is man-made. It is actually clay that has been calcinated. What that means, it's been fired already and then ground down to a fine particle in order to give body to the clay. So that's our mix, and we're ready to go ahead and get it started with all of those ingredients gone in, and our clay is mixed and ready to take out. As you can see, it's an arduous task. Taking this clay out of the mixer, I got probably 150 to 200 pounds of clay has been mixed inside the mixture at this point. You'll notice that red light on the side there. Below that red light is actually a dial where I can cut the power to the entire machine, which makes this process that I'm doing right now very safe. And so all the power off to the machine. Put it on our handy dandy cart that we have in the studio, take a little bit of that out, and I'm going to go over to the pug mill now and go ahead and get that started pugging. So here's what I do. I put one piece in and I go, wait a minute, that clay in there looks more red than mine. Oh no, I made a mistake. So what I had to do is go back and put in red iron oxide. That's the ingredient that I missed the first time that I mixed everything together. All that clay went back in, added 300 grams of red iron oxide, and I'm ready to go. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make our clay.